The first warning came at 3:47 Universal Coordinated Time. Massive gravitational anomalies rippled through Earth's orbital sensors, creating a pattern unlike anything previously recorded. Dr. Sarah Chen, lead researcher at the Global Space Monitoring Center, felt the hair on the back of her neck stand up as she watched the holographic displays flicker with unprecedented readings. "This is not a natural phenomenon," she muttered, her fingers flying across the quantum interface. Around her, a team of international researchers gathered, their collective breath held in anticipation. The Zorn Collective's warships materialized with a silent brutality that defied conventional physics. Kilometers-long vessels of obsidian and metallic silver hung in Earth's orbit, their surfaces etched with complex geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with an inner menacing light. These were not ships of exploration or peaceful contact. They were instruments of absolute conquest. Admiral Krell, commander of the Zorn invasion fleet, had conquered thousands of civilizations across the galaxy. His species viewed themselves as the ultimate arbiters of galactic order, a civilization that had systematically eliminated or subjugated every intelligent species they had encountered over millennia. To the Zorn, resistance was not just futile. It was a concept so alien that it barely registered in their collective consciousness. The first transmission arrived with clinical precision. Mathematical algorithms translated the alien communication across every global communication network simultaneously. World leaders watched in a mixture of terror and fascination as the message unfolded. Inhabitants of planetary designation Earth 427. The message began, its translation carrying a tone of absolute certainty. Your civilization has been selected for mandatory integration. You will comply with the following protocols. Resistance is a statistical improbability. Prepare for systematic restructuring of your social, technological, and biological systems. What followed was a comprehensive list of submission requirements. The Zorn outlined how they would dismantle human governments, redistribute populations, extract resources, and fundamentally remake Earth according to their precise galactic standards. The message was not a negotiation. It was an announcement of imminent transformation. In government command centers across the planet, military strategists and political leaders prepared for what seemed like an inevitable conflict. Conventional defense protocols suggested immediate evacuation, massive military mobilization, or complete surrender. But something different was brewing in the global network of human researchers, engineers, and technology experts. At the moment the Zorn transmission concluded, a global hackathon spontaneously organized. It wasn't a coordinated military response, but something far more complex and unpredictable. Universities, technology companies, independent research groups, and individual experts began sharing information at unprecedented speeds. The team at the Global Space Monitoring Center became the unexpected nerve center of this response. Dr. Chen recognized that traditional defensive strategies would fail against such an advanced civilization. Instead, they needed to understand, then systematically undermine the Zorn's technological infrastructure. Quantum computing clusters around the world began working on decoding the alien transmission. What looked like a straightforward message of conquest contained layers of complex communication protocols. Each layer the humans decoded revealed more about the Zorn's technological and communication systems. Within hours, something extraordinary happened. The Zorn's communication network started to experience inexplicable disruptions. Streams of complex data, mathematical sequences, and seemingly random information began to flood their systems. Internet memes mixed with advanced scientific algorithms created a chaotic information landscape that the rigid Zorn communication systems could not effectively process. Admiral Krell watched in growing confusion as his fleet's supposedly impenetrable communication networks began to crackle and distort. The humans were doing something no species had ever done before. They were turning the Zorn's technological superiority into a vulnerability. What the Zorn didn't understand was the fundamental nature of human creativity. Where the alien civilization saw order, humans saw opportunity. Where the Zorn expected submission, humans were already reimagining the entire concept of resistance. The first encounter was not going according to any known Galactic Conquest protocol, and humanity was just getting started. The Global Research Collaborative formed in a matter of hours, something that would have been impossible just a decade earlier. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic display that connected research centers across 6 continents, her mind racing with the implications of the alien technology they had begun to analyze. "We're looking at a completely different paradigm of technological development," she explained to the assembled team of experts. The display shifted, showing intricate schematics of the alien communication systems intercepted during the initial encounter. Each line and geometric pattern seemed to pulse with an almost living complexity. In Beijing, a team of quantum computing experts worked alongside network engineers from Mumbai. Their counterparts in Sao Paulo collaborated with researchers from Cape Town, sharing real-time insights through a secure, globally distributed network. This was more than a scientific endeavor. It was a planetary response to an unprecedented threat. The first breakthrough came from an unexpected source. A group of graduate students working in a makeshift lab at a small university in Kenya discovered a unique pattern in the alien communication protocols. What initially appeared to be random mathematical sequences were actually a complex form of compressed information storage. "It's not just a communication method," explained Kwame Osai, the lead researcher of the student team. "It's a complete information ecosystem. The Zorn don't just send messages. Their entire technological infrastructure is a living, adaptive network." This revelation changed everything. The global research team realized they weren't just dealing with advanced technology. The Zorn systems were more akin to a biological organism, with each component capable of adapting and responding to external stimuli. Dr. Rodriguez's team began developing a new approach. Instead of trying to break the alien technology, they would understand its fundamental principles. Open-source platforms buzzed with activity as millions of volunteers began analyzing the captured alien schematics. Researchers used advanced machine learning algorithms to decode the intricate patterns, breaking down the technology piece by piece. The most surprising contributions came from unexpected disciplines. Musicians analyzed the mathematical patterns of the alien communication, finding harmonic relationships that traditional engineers had missed. Linguists apply their understanding of complex communication systems to unravel the deeper layers of the alien technology. At the European Particle Research Center, a breakthrough emerged that would change the entire dynamic of human understanding. Dr. Marcus Klein and his team discovered that the Zorn's technological systems operated on principles of quantum entanglement far more advanced than human current capabilities. But advanced didn't mean impenetrable. They've created a technological ecosystem that's so rigid, it's actually its own weakness, Dr. Klein explained during a global briefing. Every system needs flexibility to truly adapt. The Zorn have optimized for efficiency to such a degree that they've eliminated their own capacity for spontaneous innovation. Meanwhile, the alien fleet continued to hover above Earth, increasingly bewildered by the human response. Admiral Krell's communication systems were being flooded with information that defied all their standard analysis protocols. Mathematical sequences mixed with artistic expressions, scientific data intertwined with complex philosophical concepts. The open-source approach to alien technology analysis became humanity's greatest weapon. Where the Zorn expected a unified, centralized response, they encountered a chaotic, distributed network of human intelligence. Universities, private research centers, independent researchers, and citizen scientists all contributed to a rapidly evolving understanding of the alien technology. In Silicon Valley, a startup developed an experimental quantum interface that could partially interact with the alien communication systems. In Bangalore, a team of software engineers created adaptive algorithms that could mimic and then subtly disrupt the alien network's communication patterns. Dr. Rodriguez realized they were doing more than just defending against the Zorn. They were learning, adapting, and ultimately transforming their understanding of technological possibility. Each decoded fragment of alien technology opened up new possibilities for human innovation. By the end of the first week, the global research team had developed a preliminary understanding of the Zorn's technological infrastructure that went far beyond simple defensive strategies. They were preparing to do something no species had ever done before, not just resist the Zorn, but fundamentally challenge their entire technological paradigm. The adaptive breakthrough was more than a scientific achievement. It was a testament to human collaboration, creativity, and an unprecedented ability to transform the unknown into an opportunity for growth. Psychological warfare had always been the Zorn Collective's most potent weapon. For millennia, they had perfected the art of breaking the spirit of intelligent species, systematically dismantling civilizations by exploiting their deepest fears and most vulnerable psychological weaknesses. Every conquered world had followed a predictable pattern of terror, submission, and eventual assimilation. Humans would be different. General Marcus Chen studied the initial psychological profiles the Zorn had attempted to construct about human civilization. The alien analysis was a masterpiece of rigid thinking, a complex matrix of predicted responses, potential breaking points, and calculated methods of inducing collective surrender. What the Zorn didn't understand was the fundamental unpredictability of human nature. The first psychological counterattack began with something the aliens could never have anticipated: global comedy. As the Zorn broadcast their most intimidating holographic messages of conquest, internet comedians, social media creators, and entertainment networks began to systematically deconstruct these transmissions with humor. Memes spread faster than the alien communication networks could process. Each serious threat was met with increasingly elaborate jokes, satirical interpretations, and creative reimaginings that completely undermined the Zorn's psychological warfare strategies. Where the aliens expected terror, they found laughter. Dr. Rebecca Williams, a leading expert in cross-cultural communication and psychological resilience, had been preparing for this moment her entire career. She assembled a unique team of experts: psychologists, comedians, artists, musicians, and cultural analysts. Their mission was to develop a comprehensive response to the Zorn's psychological manipulation. They're looking for predictability, Dr. Williams explained during an emergency global conference. We're going to give them the exact opposite. Military strategists developed response protocols that combined serious defense with creative unpredictability. When the Zorn sent intimidating holographic messages, human broadcasts would interrupt with complex philosophical debates, performance art, and musical performances that left the alien commanders utterly bewildered. A group of musicians created a global symphony that was simultaneously a communication attempt and a psychological defense mechanism. The composition incorporated mathematical sequences decoded from alien transmissions, traditional musical forms from cultures around the world, and adaptive algorithms that could change in real time. In Tokyo, a team of digital artists began creating interactive holographic displays that would respond to Zorn communication attempts. Each transmission would trigger a new, completely unexpected artistic experience. The displays were more than just visual art. They were a form of psychological judo, using the aliens' own communication energy against them. Social media platforms became an unexpected front in the psychological warfare. Where the Zorn expected fear and submission, they found a global population that was simultaneously serious about defense and utterly irreverent about the invasion attempt. Comedians created elaborate sketch shows that broke down the alien threat into absurdist comedy. Musicians composed songs that turned the invasion into musical narratives. Writers published real-time fiction that reimagined the encounter from 1,000 different perspectives. The psychological impact was profound. The Zorn's communication networks began to experience inexplicable disruptions. Their analysis algorithms, designed to predict and manipulate psychological responses, started to malfunction when confronted with the sheer complexity of human emotional and creative expression. Admiral Krell watched in growing confusion as his carefully designed psychological warfare strategies dissolved into something he could not comprehend. Humans were not responding with the expected fear, aggression, or submission. Instead, they were transforming the very concept of resistance into a creative act. Dr. Williams understood the deeper strategy. "We're not just defending," she explained to her team. "We're demonstrating the fundamental value of individual creativity. Every joke, every piece of art, every unexpected response is a declaration of human complexity." The global response was a symphony of resistance. Academic institutions published scholarly analyses of the alien encounter. Artists created immersive experiences that explored the psychological implications of first contact. Comedians turned potential terror into elaborate satirical performances. As the Zorn struggled to process this unprecedented response, humans were rewriting the entire concept of psychological warfare. Where the aliens saw a potential conquest, humanity saw an opportunity for the most elaborate planet-wide creative expression in history. The psychological puzzle was more than a defense. It was a celebration of human complexity, creativity, and an unbreakable spirit of innovation. The global financial system had always been complex, but the arrival of the Zorn Collective transformed economic strategy into an unprecedented form of planetary defense. Dr. Elena Rodriguez found herself at the center of a remarkable coalition of financial experts, technology specialists, and diplomatic strategists who were about to wage a war unlike any in human history. The first step was understanding the Zorn's economic infrastructure. Initial analysis revealed a rigidly structured galactic economic system that had remained unchanged for millennia. The aliens operated on a model of resource extraction and systematic value consolidation that had worked perfectly across thousands of conquered civilizations. But humans were different. "We're not going to fight their system," explained Michael Chen, a lead economist from the Global Financial Collaborative. "We're going to make their system fight itself." The strategy began with cryptocurrency experts and blockchain specialists who started developing adaptive financial instruments that could interact with and subtly destabilize the Zorn's economic networks. They created a series of complex financial algorithms that could move resources in patterns too intricate for the alien economic analysis systems to predict. In Singapore, a team of financial engineers developed what they called economic camouflage techniques. They designed financial transactions that looked like standard resource exchanges, but contained layers of complex information and subtle disruption protocols. Each transaction became a potential vector for economic warfare. The global research team discovered a critical weakness in the Zorn's economic model. Their entire system was based on absolute predictability and centralized control. Humans would use decentralization as a weapon. Cryptocurrency platforms began coordinating a global economic response. Traditional financial institutions, cryptocurrency exchanges, and independent economic researchers formed an unprecedented alliance. They started creating economic pressure that the rigid Zorn society couldn't easily adapt to. Stock markets around the world became unexpected battlegrounds. Trading algorithms were modified to create complex economic patterns that would confuse and destabilize the alien economic analysis systems. What looked like normal market fluctuations were actually carefully designed economic disruption strategies. Dr. Rodriguez's team identified multiple attack vectors. They would target not just the Zorn's economic infrastructure, but their entire concept of resource valuation. Blockchain technologies were weaponized to create economic noise that would make traditional resource tracking impossible. "We're going to turn their greatest strength into their most significant weakness," explained Sarah Wong, a leading blockchain security expert. "Their centralized economic system is actually incredibly vulnerable to distributed, adaptive economic strategies." The global economic counterattack had multiple layers. Academic researchers published economic analysis that introduced completely new economic theories. Technology companies developed adaptive financial technologies that could move resources in ways the Zorn could not predict. Independent researchers created economic models that challenged fundamental assumptions about resource valuation. Financial centers in New York, London, Tokyo, and Mumbai began coordinating a global economic response that was part defense, part exploration, and part creative reimagining of economic possibility. Each transaction became a potential information vector, each economic movement a form of communication. The Zorn's economic analysis systems began to experience unprecedented disruptions. Their algorithms, designed to predict and control resource movements across entire star systems, started to malfunction when confronted with the complex, adaptive nature of human economic strategies. Admiral Krell watched in growing confusion as the economic warfare unfolded. The humans were not just defending, they were transforming the entire concept of economic interaction. What had always been a straightforward process of resource extraction was becoming an incredibly complex dance of information, creativity, and unexpected movement. Cryptocurrency platforms became unexpected communication channels. Each transaction contained layers of information, each economic movement a potential message. The line between economic strategy and communication was becoming beautifully blurred. The global economic counterattack was more than a defensive strategy. It was a demonstration of human economic creativity, a celebration of distributed economic thinking that challenged every fundamental assumption the Zorn had about resource management and economic control. As the economic warfare continued, one thing became increasingly clear. Humans were not just fighting. They were reimagining the entire concept of economic interaction on a galactic scale. The Zorn Collective had conquered thousands of civilizations across the galaxy, each time systematically eliminating cultural diversity in favor of a rigid, uniform existence. They prided themselves on cultural homogeneity, believing that true efficiency required the complete elimination of individual expression. Humanity would prove them catastrophically wrong. As the global resistance developed, artists became as crucial to the defense as any military strategist or technology expert. The cultural counterattack began in museums, concert halls, digital platforms, and street corners around the world. In Rio de Janeiro, a group of street artists began creating massive murals that incorporated decoded alien communication patterns into vibrant living artwork. Each brushstroke was a form of resistance, each color a defiance of the monochromatic alien worldview. The murals would shift and change, interactive displays that challenged every concept of static communication the Zorn understood. Musicians in Mumbai developed a groundbreaking musical project that transformed alien communication algorithms into complex symphonies. Traditional instruments merged with digital technologies, creating soundscapes that were simultaneously a form of art and a sophisticated communication attempt. The music defied traditional understanding. It was mathematical, emotional, and completely unpredictable. Dr. Rebecca Williams, the cultural communication expert, understood the deeper strategy. "We're not just creating art," she explained during a global symposium. "We're demonstrating the fundamental value of individual expression. Each piece of art is a declaration of human complexity." In Tokyo, digital artists created immersive holographic experiences that would activate whenever Zorn communication signals were detected. These were not simple defensive mechanisms, but complex artistic statements that transformed potential threats into opportunities for creative expression. Alien transmission signals would trigger elaborate visual performances that merged mathematical precision with raw emotional content. Writers began a global narrative project, creating real-time fiction that explored the alien encounter from thousands of different perspectives. Every genre was represented: science fiction, magical realism, poetry, graphic novels. The project was more than storytelling. It was a comprehensive exploration of human imagination. Dancers in Cape Town developed performance pieces that incorporated scientific data, alien communication patterns, and traditional cultural movements. Each performance was a living, breathing argument against cultural uniformity. The choreography was simultaneously a form of resistance, communication, and pure artistic expression. The Zorn communication networks began to experience unprecedented disruptions. Their analysis algorithms, designed to categorize and neutralize cultural expressions, started to malfunction when confronted with the sheer complexity of human creativity. Podcasters, social media creators, and independent journalists created a constant stream of content that explored every possible angle of the alien encounter. Where the Zorn expected fear and submission, they found an entire planet engaged in a massive, collaborative, creative exploration. Comedy became an unexpected weapon. Comedians around the world began creating elaborate sketch shows, stand-up routines, and digital content that transformed the alien threat into material for profound and absurdist humor. Each joke was a form of psychological resistance, each comedic performance a declaration of human resilience. Academic institutions published comprehensive studies exploring the cultural implications of the alien encounter. These were not just academic papers, but living documents that invited global participation. Researchers created open-source platforms where anyone could contribute their perspectives, theories, and creative interpretations. Admiral Krell watched in growing confusion as human cultural expressions began to flood every communication channel. The aliens had expected a unified, predictable response. Instead, they encountered a global civilization that responded to potential destruction with an unprecedented explosion of creativity. The Cultural Revolution was more than a defensive strategy. It was a comprehensive demonstration of human diversity, a celebration of individual expression that challenged every fundamental assumption the Zorn had about intelligent life. Indigenous artists from the Amazon rainforest created intricate textile works that incorporated alien communication patterns. Street musicians in New Orleans developed jazz performances that transformed scientific data into living, breathing music. Digital artists in Seoul created interactive experiences that merged technology, art, and communication in ways no one had ever imagined. As the cultural counterattack continued, one thing became increasingly clear. Humans were not just fighting. They were reimagining the entire concept of cultural expression on a galactic scale. The Zorn had encountered many civilizations, but they had never encountered anything like humanity. The breakthrough came from an unexpected collaboration. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in a makeshift research facility that sprawled across 3 continents, watching as scientists, engineers, and researchers from around the world worked on something that would change everything. They had been studying the alien technology for weeks, and now they were ready to do more than just understand. They were prepared to transform it. The quantum communication system developed by the global research team was unlike anything the Zorn had ever encountered. It wasn't just a defensive tool or a weapon. It was a living, breathing technological ecosystem that could adapt, learn, and fundamentally reimagine technological interaction. Dr. Marcus Klein, the lead quantum systems researcher, explained the core concept to the global team. "We're not trying to break their technology," he said, his holographic image projected to research centers around the world. "We're teaching it to be something entirely new." The system they had developed could interact with alien communication networks on a fundamental level. Where the Zorn expected rigid, predictable responses, the human-developed quantum interface introduced elements of creativity, spontaneity, and unexpected problem-solving. In the European Particle Research Center, a team of quantum physicists had discovered a critical vulnerability in the Zorn's technological infrastructure. Their communication systems, while incredibly advanced, operated on a set of fixed protocols that left them vulnerable to creative disruption. The first test came with surgical precision. As the Zorn communication networks attempted to process their standard data streams, the human-developed quantum interface began its transformation. Mathematical sequences shifted, communication patterns twisted, and the alien technology found itself confronted with something it could not predict. Researchers in Mumbai had developed adaptive algorithms that could mimic and then subtly modify the alien network's communication patterns. Each interaction became a potential point of transformation, each data stream opportunity for technological evolution. "It's like teaching a rigid computer to dream," explained Dr. Sarah Wong, a leading expert in adaptive computing. "We're introducing randomness, creativity, and unexpected potential into a system that has never experienced such concepts." The global research team had created something more than a technological defense. They had developed a method of technological communication that challenged fundamental assumptions about information exchange, adaptation, and technological intelligence. Quantum computing clusters around the world began working in a synchronized dance. Each cluster contributed to a massive distributed system that could interact with, analyze, and subtly transform the alien technological infrastructure. What looked like simple data exchanges were actually complex conversations, each interaction a potential point of technological evolution. Admiral Krell watched in growing confusion as his fleet's communication systems began to experience unprecedented transformations. The humans were not just defending against the technology, they were fundamentally changing its very nature. The breakthrough came when the quantum communication system began to introduce completely unexpected elements into the alien technology. Complex artistic expressions, mathematical sequences that defied traditional logic, communication patterns that shifted and changed in real time. Researchers in Sao Paulo discovered that they could use the quantum interface to not just communicate with the alien technology, but to actually modify its fundamental operating principles. Each interaction became an opportunity for technological learning. Each data stream a potential point of creative transformation. We're not just changing their technology, Dr. Rodriguez explained during a global briefing. We're demonstrating that technology can be a living, breathing, creative system. We're showing them that true technological intelligence is about adaptation, creativity, and unexpected potential. The global research team had created a technological solution that was simultaneously a defensive strategy, a communication attempt, and a profound philosophical statement about the nature of technological intelligence. As the quantum communication system continued to interact with the Zorn's technological infrastructure, one thing became increasingly clear. Humans were not just fighting. They were reimagining the entire concept of technological interaction on a galactic scale. The Zorn had encountered many technological civilizations, but they had never encountered anything like humanity. The technological transformation was more than a defensive strategy. It was a declaration of human potential, a demonstration that true technological intelligence is about more than efficiency. It's about creativity, adaptation, and the endless potential of unexpected thinking. The moment arrived with a silence that was more profound than any sound could ever be. Admiral Krell of the Zorn Collective realized, with a growing sense of incomprehension, that everything they understood about conquest was about to be challenged. Humanity had not just resisted, they had transformed the entire concept of resistance. The global defense network was unlike anything the Zorn had ever encountered. It wasn't a traditional military system with clear command structures and predictable responses. Instead, it was a living, breathing, adaptive ecosystem that could respond to threats in ways that defied all standard invasion protocols. From the European Space Command Center, General Marcus Chen coordinated a response that was part military strategy, part artistic expression, and part philosophical statement. The defense systems developed by human researchers were simultaneously technological, cultural, and deeply human. Quantum communication networks created by the global research team formed the first line of defense. These were not simple communication channels, but complex, adaptive systems that could transform incoming threats into opportunities for understanding. Each alien transmission was simultaneously analyzed, challenged, and reimagined. In the orbital defense platforms, technologies developed through global collaboration began their intricate dance. Adaptive shield systems created by researchers in Tokyo could modify their frequency and composition in milliseconds. Defensive algorithms developed in Cape Town could predict and counteract alien attack patterns before they fully materialized. The Zorn's Total Destruction Protocol, which had worked perfectly on thousands of civilizations, began to unravel the moment it was initiated. Where they expected a straightforward suppression of planetary defenses, they encountered a defense system that was more like a living organism than a traditional military network. Researchers in Mumbai had developed predictive systems that could analyze potential attack vectors and create responsive strategies in real time. Each potential threat was not just defended against, but transformed into an opportunity for communication and understanding. Global communication networks became an unexpected battlefield. Internet platforms, social media systems, and global communication infrastructures were not just defensive tools but active participants in the planetary response. Artists, scientists, engineers, and ordinary citizens became integral parts of a comprehensive defense strategy. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched from the Global Research Collaborative as the confrontation unfolded. The defense was not about destruction, but about demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to existence. Each defensive action was simultaneously a communication attempt, a creative expression, and a philosophical challenge to the Zorn's understanding of intelligent life. The orbital defense platforms began their most intricate performance. Shield systems developed through global collaboration could modify their composition in milliseconds. Defensive algorithms could predict and counteract alien attack patterns before they fully materialized. Admiral Krell's flagship experienced its first true moment of vulnerability. The humans were not just defending. They were fundamentally challenging the entire concept of invasion. Each defensive action was a complex communication, each technological response a profound philosophical statement. In Sao Paulo, a team of researchers had developed adaptive camouflage technologies that could transform planetary defense systems in real time. The technologies were more than just defensive tools. They were living systems that could learn, adapt, and respond with unprecedented creativity. The global communication networks became an unexpected weapon. Social media platforms, research collaboratives, and global communication systems transformed into a comprehensive defense network. Artists created real-time visual representations of the conflict. Musicians developed soundscapes that could potentially disrupt alien communication systems. General Chen understood the deeper strategy. "We're not just defending," he explained during a global briefing. "We're demonstrating a fundamentally different approach to existence. Our defense is a communication. Our resistance is a creative act." The final confrontation was unlike any conflict in galactic history. It was not a simple battle between two technological civilizations. It was a comprehensive challenge to fundamental assumptions about intelligence, adaptation, and the nature of existence. As the Zorn's invasion protocol began to unravel, one thing became increasingly clear. Humans were not just fighting. They were reimagining the entire concept of confrontation on a galactic scale. The Zorn had encountered many civilizations, but they had never encountered anything like humanity. The transformation began quietly, almost imperceptibly. Admiral Krell watched in growing bewilderment as the fundamental principles of Zorn civilization began to unravel in ways no one could have predicted. Exposure to human creativity had become a catalyst for a profound galactic revolution. The first signs of change appeared in the most unexpected places. Zorn researchers who had been studying human communication began to experience something unprecedented: emotional responses that defied their species' rigid psychological constraints. What had once been a purely logical, systematized approach to existence was now becoming something more complex, more vibrant. Dr. Elena Rodriguez led a global team that began carefully facilitating communication with those Zorn individuals showing signs of transformation. These were not traditional diplomatic negotiations, but a complex, multi-layered process of mutual understanding. In research centers across Earth, Zorn scientists who had requested asylum began to work alongside human researchers. Their collaborative efforts revealed something extraordinary. The human approach to knowledge was fundamentally different from anything the Zorn had previously encountered. Where the Zorn saw rigid systems, humans saw opportunity. Where the Zorn expected uniformity, humans celebrated diversity. Each interaction became a profound lesson in the potential of intelligent life. The Global Research Collaborative developed specialized communication platforms that could bridge the vast cultural and psychological differences. These were more than translation tools. They were complex empathy engines that could help both species begin to understand each other's fundamental ways of perceiving existence. Some of the most remarkable transformations occurred in younger Zorn individuals. Exposed to human art, music, and creative expression, they began to challenge the foundational principles of their own civilization. Cultural exchange programs became a critical component of the ongoing interaction. Museums around the world developed specialized exhibits that explored the nuances of first contact. Artists created immersive experiences that allowed both humans and Zorn to explore the psychological and cultural implications of their encounter. Each exhibit was a living, breathing exploration of possibility. Dr. Rebecca Williams, the cultural communication expert, understood the deeper significance. This is more than first contact, she explained during a global symposium. This is a fundamental reimagining of what intelligent life can be. The Zorn's rigid hierarchical structure began to show unprecedented cracks. Individual Zorn started requesting opportunities to explore, to create, to experience the complexity of individual expression. What had once been a completely centralized civilization was beginning to discover the value of individual potential. Scientific collaborations revealed even more profound transformations. Zorn researchers discovered that human approaches to problem-solving, which emphasized creativity, individual perspective, and adaptive thinking, could solve challenges that had remained impossible within their previous technological paradigm. Global communication networks became platforms for unprecedented cultural exchange. Social media, research platforms, and collaborative spaces allowed humans and Zorn to share perspectives in ways that challenged every previous assumption about interspecies communication. Admiral Krell, once the symbol of galactic conquest, found himself at the center of this transformation. The rigid military commander was slowly discovering something he had never experienced: the potential for individual growth, for understanding beyond systematic conquest. Universities around the world developed specialized programs focused on interspecies communication and cultural understanding. These were not just academic pursuits but living laboratories of galactic potential. Students from both species worked together, challenging fundamental assumptions about intelligence, communication, and existence. The economic systems that had once driven Zorn expansion began to transform. They discovered new models of resource sharing, collaborative development, and mutual growth that went far beyond their previous understanding of economic interaction. Art became a critical bridge of understanding. Human musicians created performances that incorporated Zorn communication patterns. Zorn artists began to explore individual expression in ways that would have been impossible in their previous civilization. Each creative act was a declaration of a new kind of potential. As the months passed, it became clear that the encounter was not about conquest or defense. It was about a fundamental reimagining of what intelligent life could be. The Zorn had not been defeated. They had been invited to discover a more complex understanding of existence. A small notation in the Universal Archives would later read, "The day humanity met the Zorn was the day both civilizations began to truly understand the meaning of possibility. The galaxy would never be the same again."